Welcome back for more physiology. We're going to be dealing with how the heart is formed today. So what we're going to try and deal with is how does the heart's structure lead to its function, and we're going to do that by looking at how it shows up. So obviously we dealt with Poissier's law. You derived his law in the lab, and what we notice is anytime I change the diameter or the radius of any type of blood vessel, or I change the viscosity of your blood or the overall length of all of your blood vessels, that will cause an increase or decrease in blood flow. If anything causes a decrease in blood flow, meaning I decrease the radius or I increase viscosity or I increase the total length of blood vessels, the result is a decreased blood flow, and the heart ultimately suffers for this. And in class, we went over some 3 examples where we tried to apply Poissier's law to these examples, because all of these are legit examples of where Poissier's law turns out to fit in. There we go. So where does your heart come from? So after fertilization, what you end up getting are a rapid set of cell divisions that ultimately lead to 2 bubbles, 2 balloons. If I were to squish those 2 balloons together, I make a flat line, and that flat line is going to become you. Those 2 layers that make up that flat disc end up splitting into 3, and those 3 layers, what we call the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, ultimately form your body. The ectoderm forms anything that is in contact with the outside or could perceive the outside. The endoderm is anything that lines the inside of your body, meaning from mouth to anus, and then the mesoderm is everything in between. If I focus in on the mesoderm, what it will eventually make are 2 big blood vessels that run along the 2 sides of your body, 2 massive arteries. The reason for that is our ancestors, our evolutionary ancestors, Amphioxus and the like, they actually have 2 large blood vessels. Those 2 blood vessels are going to fuse together, and that fusion is going to end up forming the heart. This heart here turns out to be a 2-chambered heart, so it has an atrium and a ventricle, atrium to receive blood, ventricle to pump blood. That turns out to be a fish heart. The catch is we don't have a fish heart. We have a bit more complicated of a system. So what happens is this tube starts to stretch until it forms an S shape. Then it refuses itself, and that refusion, which is where you see where it says days 22 through about 35, all of that is the restructuring of the heart. What's the point of that? So that we can eventually build the current heart. All the while, blood's flowing through the heart, and blood is primarily water, and water destroys everything. So what you end up seeing is the inside of your heart is being carved apart, and you actually get these weird little divots and gaps and lines inside of your heart called the trabeculae carni. The reason behind those, or their presence, is to actually decrease turbulence of blood flow. Turbulence is when any type of liquid flows, but it starts to curl up on itself. How do we know that's happening? Because it makes noise. If you've ever listened to blood flow or any type of video or seen any type of video of blood flow inside of your heart, it's quiet. Outside of hearing the valves opening and closing, everything's quiet. And the reason why is the blood flow is perfectly smooth. The way that it's perfectly smooth is the blood actually carves out the places where you would have noise inside of the heart, the trabeculae carni, and everything that you have left, all the remaining parts of the inside of your heart, allow for perfectly smooth blood flow. So if we look at the inside of the heart, everything is always drawn opposite, so it's how you would look at it inside of a human. So everything on the left side of the screen is the right side of the heart, and everything on the right side of the screen is the left side of the heart. We have 2 atria, which are the ones at the top. They're round, kind of like writing an A. The bottom form V shapes for ventricles. It just so happens that's how it turns out. And there are valves that connect them all. I just want to point out the valves. So between the atrium and the ventricle, we have something that we call an atrioventricular valve. And the valves have little flaps on them, or cusps. On the right side of the heart, there are 3 flaps, so we call it the tricuspid. And on the left side of the heart, it has 2 flaps, so we call it a bicuspid. kind of like your teeth. They actually have two flaps. The other thing about the mitral valve is the actual shape. The bicuspid shape is resembles a mitre hat, which is a cardinal's hat. And if I were to show you a picture of a cardinal's hat, you'd say, oh yeah, I've seen one of those things before. That's the exact shape of the bicuspid. So we also call it the mitral valve. Those valves, again, from once upon a time ago, make sure that blood is flowing from the atrium to the ventricles and not in reverse. Between the ventricles and the great arteries that connect them, we also have other valves. These ones resembled half moons, so we call them semilunar valves. The one from the right side of the heart that leads to the pulmonary artery, which is the one in blue at the top, that one there is referred to as the pulmonary semilunar valve or just the pulmonary valve. On the left side of your heart, the valve connects your left ventricle to your aorta, so we call that one the aortic semilunar valve or just the aortic valve. The catch with all of this, with all that weird twisting and all that fun stuff and fusing and unfusing, is we get all sorts of very strange heart deformations. Among them are what we would call like a patent foramen ovale. Foramen ovale makes reference to a hole, a foramen, that was round, ovale, that connected the two atria, and this has to do with when you're cooking inside of your mom during gestation, and it fuses at birth. So the flap closes up, we move on. Some people, it never really closes, or it partially fuses and then it rips back open, so we need to go and we need to fix this. There's another thing referred to as the tetralogy of Fallot, not Fallot, but Fallot. And when you look at that, it's actually where the space that separates out the two ventricles, what we would call the interventricular septum, that there turns out to not really be there all the way. The result of that is we don't really have a good mixing or we don't have a good separation of blood flow, and this is not going to be good for the infant. So this is, you got to have heart surgery, both of these. So the patent foramen ovale and the tetralogy of Fallot, you need to have heart surgery. There's another weird result of this. It's sometimes called dextrocardia, or what is it? Situs inversus or something like that, or where everything is just backwards. It's exactly what it sounds like. Everything's just backwards on your body, and which means your heart, instead of actually aiming to the left, is actually aimed to the right. So this X-ray here, the heart is actually aimed the wrong way compared to most people. How do you know you happen to have this? You wouldn't know unless, for some odd reason, we had to go and look. Which means all your signs and symptoms for things like heart attacks, of shooting pain down your left arm, nope, now it's going to be your right arm. And you won't have your gallbladder on your right side, it'll be on your left side. You won't have your appendix on the right side, it'll be on the left side. It's just everything turns out to be inverted. It's a phenomenon of how you're built.